Have you ever felt a tightness or heaviness in your chest for no particular reason, especially on a Sunday afternoon as the sun slowly begins to set? Even though Monday hasn't arrived yet, your mind might already be filled with the tasks you'll face tomorrow morning, and you may start to feel a growing sense of anxiety. That persistent, heavy feeling, as if you're already sitting at your office desk even while resting, can make us feel quite helpless. If this sounds familiar, the emotion you're experiencing might not just be a simple reluctance to work. Instead, it could be your brain perceiving the current situation as a threat to your well-being, signaling a psychological alert. This isn't because you're weak. Rather, it's your body sending a powerful, instinctive warning signal to protect itself. My body is relaxing on the sofa at home. Yet, why does my mind feel like it's already in the company meeting room, breaking out in a cold sweat? Why do we bring up Monday's tasks, which haven't even happened yet, and ruin this precious rest time now? This happens because our human brain has highly advanced predictive abilities. However, this ability sometimes becomes overly active, interpreting future situations we haven't even encountered yet as crises, causing us to suffer prematurely. We know very well, logically, that worrying now won't solve anything or lead to an immediate solution. However, our hearts don't always follow that logical voice. The intense anxiety we might experience on Sunday nights is often referred to as Monday sickness. But have you ever considered that psychologically it could be much closer to a Monday phobia? A part of our brain, known as the amygdala, tends to trigger a fear response even before we face a stressful situation, preparing our bodies for a sense of heightened readiness. Sunday evenings, in particular, often feel like a unique meeting point where our personal freedom converges with the structured nature of our organizational lives. This can often heighten feelings of confusion and resistance within our minds. So the real reason we might feel apprehension about Mondays isn't merely due to a heavy workload, but rather because our subconscious strongly resists the idea of handing over control of our lives back to others.
We often assume a good weekend rest will help us feel ready when Monday comes. However, sometimes it can feel like the opposite is happening. This is because we might unknowingly fall into a trap of fake rest. Our bodies may be still, but our minds are constantly active. Have you ever noticed yourself watching your phone or videos, yet a part of your mind is busy anticipating tomorrow's challenges, like a boss's expression or complicated tasks? When we are in this state, our brain struggles to truly relax. This often means we consume more energy even during our downtime. It can feel like we've already spent a week's worth of mental energy on Sunday night before Monday even begins.
It's important to remember that this anticipatory anxiety isn't a problem stemming from a weak will. In fact, it's one of the most sophisticated defense mechanisms our species has developed to survive in harsh environments. This instinct, which sought to increase survival chances by anticipating and preparing for impending threats, now clashes with modern office environments, manifesting as anxiety. Therefore, there's absolutely no need to blame yourself or feel inadequate when you experience anxiety on Sunday nights. Instead, that anxiety can actually be a testament to your sense of responsibility, showing how earnestly you want to live and perfectly fulfill your obligations.
However, agonizing over things that won't be resolved by worrying about them right now can feel like pouring water into a bottomless jar. You might wonder why our brains can't stop this relentless cycle of worry, even when we know it's pointless. This is because the brain tends to perceive uncertainty as an unresolved task. Things that are undefined and an unknown future are significant sources of stress for our brains, and to address this, our minds continuously engage in what feels like worrying. Even when we're in a situation where we can't immediately handle tomorrow's tasks, our minds might fall into the illusion that by worrying, we are at least making some preparation.
Did you know that our brain's amygdala might not clearly distinguish between real and imagined threats? The moment we find ourselves worrying about tomorrow's tasks on a Sunday night, our body can begin secreting cortisol, a stress hormone, at the same level as when we are actually performing those tasks. In other words, we might be experiencing the discomfort of Monday morning's commute in advance at this very moment. Our brain tends to view uncertain situations as dangers and may constantly alert us with emergency warnings. While this overreaction initially aims to protect us, it can sometimes end up disrupting the peace of our precious Sunday.
Especially for those of us who tend to be highly responsible and have perfectionist tendencies, the weight of Sunday night can feel particularly heavy. This often comes from a desire to control all the variables that might arise in the coming week, and a strong wish to avoid even a single mistake, which can amplify our feelings of anxiety. However, it's helpful to remember that the standard of perfection might actually be an illusion we've created for ourselves. The discomfort we feel when our belief that we can perfectly control everything starts to waver is often the root of what we call Monday dread. It's important for us to gently remind ourselves that the only thing we can truly influence is who we are in this very moment. Do you ever find yourself blaming yourself, even when you know worrying now won't change anything, yet you can't stop? This kind of self-blame can feel like stacking one layer of anxiety on top of another, pulling us deeper into a challenging situation. We need to shift our perspective and realize that the reason we're struggling isn't because we're inadequate, but because our brain is diligently doing its job. Anxiety has a way of bouncing back even stronger the more we try to suppress it. Instead, simply acknowledging that our brain is sending us strong signals because we want to perform well tomorrow, just by observing that anxiety calmly, can significantly reduce its intensity. One more reason our brains revisit worries is our desire for cognitive closure. Our brain feels very uncomfortable with unresolved situations and wants to find an answer somehow. Because there's no definite conclusion about what will happen on Monday, your brain keeps turning that problem over in your mind, trying to find an answer. However, for many things in life, it's often impossible to know the answers beforehand. We need to train ourselves to accept this uncertainty, not as a risk, but as a possibility. We must give our brain a clear signal that this is not a time for solving problems, but for conserving energy, to break this recurring loop of worry. Let's take a moment to recall Sunday nights from the past. Perhaps back then, just like now, you might have felt your chest tighten and struggled to sleep, burdened by a pile of worries. But then, once Monday had passed and it was Tuesday, didn't you often realize it wasn't as big a deal as you'd thought? In fact, more than 90% of the worries we have either never actually happen, or they are at a level we can sufficiently manage. When we actually arrive on site and start working, our bodies and minds somehow adapt to the situation and find solutions. We realize each week that the wave of Monday, which felt so heavy, was actually just shallow water we could easily swim across once we dove. But why does our brain forget so many successful experiences and fall into new fears every Sunday? This is because of negativity bias, one of our brain's survival instincts. Our brain tends to store a single mistake or harsh words from others as much more intense and risky information compared to memories of handling things well in the past. So even things that would have amounted to nothing when actually faced can grow into giant monsters in the darkness of Sunday night, threatening us. However, a clear truth is that this week, just like last week and the week before, we will eventually solve the problems and safely conclude our day. If you've ever found yourself on a Tuesday morning, looking back at your worries from the previous Sunday, and perhaps smiling faintly at how unnecessary they turned out to be, then it's important to remember that your current anxieties are likely just fleeting clouds. Our minds often expend energy by paying interest on events that haven't even happened yet, worrying about what might happen. Once we step through Monday's door, we will undoubtedly navigate situations and solve problems with the capabilities we possess. So right now, in this very moment, there's a need to tell yourself this: I've managed well so far, and this time too, I will handle things much better than I might expect. This single belief can be the most powerful tool to help ease that deep anxiety often felt on Sunday nights. So it's time to explore specific strategies to transform vague fears into a genuine sense of relief. The first method I often suggest is called the brain dump technique. This involves writing down all the worries that might be cluttering your mind.
When information just stays in our heads, our brains can feel a significant cognitive burden, often sending out signals of anxiety to try and resolve it. However, if we take even just 5 minutes to write down what needs to be done tomorrow or any points of concern, our brain starts to categorize these as tasks to be processed. This allows them to move from being emotional burdens to being something we can approach more rationally.
The act of writing things down seems to have a magical effect because it helps free up our brain's working memory capacity. When you keep thoughts only in your mind, it might feel as if just a few worries can overwhelm your brain. However, once you write them down and see them laid out, you might realize their actual scope is smaller than you perceived. It's similar to how an unseen challenge can feel daunting, but once a challenge reveals itself, you can strategize and overcome it. The moment you use a brain dump to transfer the thoughts weighing on your mind onto paper, your brain begins to signal to your entire body that it's safe to not worry about these issues immediately. Now, we need to categorize the items you've written down into 2 groups: what you can control right now and what you can't control no matter how much you worry. For example, double-checking your preparations for tomorrow's meeting is within your control. However, things like your boss's mood, tomorrow's weather, or a sudden system error are beyond our influence. Sometimes we might find ourselves focusing our energy on things we can't control, and that can make us feel anxious. It's a bit like staying up all night hoping for the rain to stop, even though we can't influence it. Practicing the bold release of things beyond our control is key to preserving our mental well-being. A manager's challenging response or how others view us is their concern, not something we can change by anticipating it. When we hold on to what we can't influence, the direction of our lives can shift to others and our environment, and we may feel a sense of powerlessness. Right now, perhaps try drawing a thin line through the uncontrollable items you've listed on paper. Just this simple act can help us break free from unnecessary worries and regain our precious moments of peace and rest. Another powerful tool to overcome vague fears is to very specifically plan the first hour of Monday morning. Instead of worrying about the entire Monday, it's about predetermining just 3 small tasks to handle first after arriving at work and settling into your seat. For example, a very simple routine like turning on your computer, checking emails, organizing your desk, and reviewing 1 urgent document is sufficient. Our brain, predicting that the process will go smoothly once the starting point is clear, begins to rapidly lower its anxiety levels. Just by visualizing the scene of smoothly starting your Monday, your brain can perceive the situation not as a challenge, but as a manageable part of your routine. Visualization is a powerful way for your brain to experience situations in advance, helping to ease feelings of unfamiliarity and apprehension. Imagine yourself on a Monday morning, calmly enjoying your coffee and gently moving through your tasks one by one. This imagined scenario isn't just a daydream. It can become a helpful preview of the calm competence you might bring to that actual Monday morning. When your mind feels prepared for something, it often helps to alleviate any sense of unease or concern. Finally, consider a worry acceptance technique that intentionally helps limit your time worrying. Rather than your entire Sunday evening being consumed by worry, try setting a timer for just 15 minutes to allow yourself to worry freely. During that time, try to visualize all possible worst-case scenarios, write them down, and see their extent. And the moment the timer rings, consciously close the door to your worries. Then practice returning to your state of rest. By not forcibly blocking worries, but allowing them for a set time, we can truly take charge of our worries and learn to manage their influence. Sometimes to break free from the cycle of complex thoughts, moving our body can be the quickest solution. When the mind is caught up in past regrets or future worries, a simple stretch or a slow walk around the house can be a powerful switch, bringing our focus back to the present. By concentrating on the feeling of our feet touching the ground or the sensation of muscles relaxing, we might notice the dread of Monday, which once filled our minds, gradually fading away. Our body truthfully lives in the present moment, so we need to continuously send signals to our brain through physical stimulation that this moment is safe. Why not create a small, special reward just for your Monday mornings? This helps design a new pathway in your brain, so it doesn't just see Mondays as a time of stress or pressure. Perhaps you could enjoy your favorite coffee or listen to a cherished music playlist only on your way to work. When you deliberately introduce positive stimuli to counter those negative feelings often linked with Mondays, your brain's resistance tends to lessen considerably. Practicing falling asleep while imagining a little joy to look forward to the next morning, instead of Sunday night worries, can gradually shift your subconscious in wonderful ways. Instead of forcing anxiety away, it's helpful to acknowledge that your mind might be a little restless right now. When we try to fight anxiety, it tends to grow larger and threaten us. But paradoxically, the moment we calmly accept its presence, its power begins to wane. Just as the bottom of a stormy sea remains calm, please trust the inherent tranquility beneath the waves of worry on your mind's surface. Remember that emotions are like guests who visit us temporarily and then depart, and practicing to let them simply flow will guide us to true freedom. We need to remember once more that we have encountered hundreds of Mondays so far and have safely navigated through every one of those waves. Each time, we somehow found our way and managed to hold our ground much more capably than we might have thought. It's important to practice trusting that our future self is much stronger and wiser than the self currently worrying. Once we actually arrive at the Monday situation, our innate problem solver instinct, which has been dormant, will awaken and calmly sort everything out. So instead of anticipating troubles that haven't even arrived yet, try to firmly trust in your own resilience, having overcome countless Mondays already. Sunday night shouldn't be an overtime session to prepare for the week ahead, but rather a final sanctuary solely for recharging yourself. Instead of feeling compelled to sacrifice today for tomorrow's efficiency, try focusing only on what brings you the most comfort right now. Simple acts like taking a warm shower, breathing in your favorite scent, or letting yourself sink into a cozy blanket truly restore our spirits. When you secure this time to embrace who you are, not the person your company expects, but your true self, that's when we truly gain the energy to face tomorrow. Sunday's end shouldn't be about preparing for tomorrow, but rather the biggest gift to ourselves for living well today. Could it be that the heavy burden of needing to do everything perfectly is pushing us deeper into a pit of anxiety? Perhaps what we truly fear isn't failure itself, but rather our inability to accept our own imperfect selves. However, we've already learned through experience that it's okay to be a little clumsy, and that life doesn't fall apart even if things don't go according to plan. Try to allow in advance that you might make mistakes in some of the tasks you face tomorrow, and that unexpected variables might arise. The moment we let go of the illusion of perfection, the weight of Monday will finally become light enough for us to bear.
Practicing setting a clear boundary, acknowledging that your company's performance doesn't define your personal worth, is crucial for our mental well-being. The seemingly overwhelming tasks awaiting you on Monday are simply roles you need to fulfill. They don't determine your inherent beauty or dignity. Please hold firm to the belief that your preciousness as an individual remains constant, regardless of how you perform at work, or if you receive praise or criticism from your boss. When we cultivate this healthy detachment, we can truly find our inner calm, even amidst the challenges of a Monday. Remember once more to embrace the idea that work is a means to life, not life's ultimate purpose.
Now, gently set aside the tangled threads of your thoughts and focus all your attention solely on your present breath. As you inhale, embrace tranquility, and as you exhale, slowly repeat the process of releasing all your worries and anxieties about tomorrow. As you feel the air pass through your nostrils, deep into your lungs, and then out again, the thoughts that troubled you will fade into the distance, like a train departing far away. In this very moment, what you truly need is not the effort to find answers, but simply the peace of just being and breathing. As your breath deepens, the fear of tomorrow will dissipate, and only the comforting darkness that will embrace you tonight will remain by your side. Tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes, you'll find yourself starting the day much more calmly and composedly than you might expect. This is because all the ghosts of worry that troubled us on Sunday night will silently evaporate under the bright sunlight. You are a resilient person who has grown by overcoming countless challenges, and tomorrow you will admirably fulfill your role, far surpassing any worries you might have tonight. So now you can trust yourself, feel at ease, and close eyes. The world will sustain you even as you sleep, and tomorrow will arrive, far kinder and smoother than you can imagine. Tonight, please lay down the burden of all your worries and allow yourself to seek a deep, comfortable sleep for the precious self that you are. Leave tomorrow's concerns to the person you'll be tomorrow. For now, you deserve nothing but rest in complete tranquility. Remember that darkness is not a threatening force, but a healing blanket that gently enfolds your tired soul. Tomorrow morning, you will awaken feeling refreshed, as if reborn, with a lighter body and mind. Now, I sincerely wish for you to turn off all noise and slowly drift into the deepest peace. Have a peaceful night.